December the 27th, 1992, southern Iraq. An American F-16D is flying a routine patrol over the no-fly zone. Tail number 90-0778. Call sign Benji 41. In the cockpit, Lieutenant Colonel Gary North, commander of the 33rd Fighter Squadron. An Iraqi MiG-25 Foxbat crosses the no-fly zone. The clearance comes over the radio. At roughly 3 nautical miles, North locks the Foxbat and fires a single missile from his wingtip rail. A brand new American weapon nobody had ever used in combat before, the AIM-120, AIM-120. The missile flew perfectly. The MiG did not. Gary North got a Silver Star and a 4-star career. The Foxbat got an engineering lesson it did not live to apply. 34 years later, that same missile is still hanging off the wings of every Western frontline fighter in the world. How? The AIM-120, AMRAAM, is integrated on 14 aircraft platforms. It is in service with 43 countries. Raytheon has conducted more than 6,000 live firings of it. In 2025 alone, Finland signed for 405 of the latest variant. Poland for 400. Germany for 400. Japan requested up to 1,200. These are not stockpile refreshes. These are frontline orders for a weapon the US Air Force once expected to stop buying in 2026. And in late 2024, an F-22 Raptor fired an AMRAAM on a test range over the Gulf of Mexico and set the longest known air-to-air missile shot in history. The missile had its first combat kill before most of the pilots flying it today were born. At this point, if you own a fighter jet and you do not own AMRAAMs, you are either French, broke, or making a statement. Here is the part that should have been the ending of this story. In 2017, the US Air Force started a program to replace the AMRAAM. It is called the AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, built by Lockheed Martin. Initial operational capability was promised for 2022. It's 2026. The AIM-260 is still in testing. As of October 2025, senior Air Force officials acknowledged the missile has missed its initial operational capability date and is still working through integration problems on the F-22 and F-35. Meanwhile, the AMRAAM production line is not winding down. It is ramping up. The replacement failed to arrive on time, so the weapon it was supposed to replace got rebuilt instead. And the missile flying off the rail today is, underneath the skin, almost nothing like the one Gary North fired in 1992. So here is what we actually need to answer. What did Raytheon do to a missile that was already supposed to be retired? The A and B models were the originals. The ones Gary North fired in 1992. Effective range of about 75 kilometers. Good enough to kill Soviet fighters the way the Pentagon expected to fight them. The C-Series in the mid-1990s brought clipped fins, so the missile would fit inside the F-22's internal weapons bay without breaking stealth. And starting at C5, a single-stage rocket motor replacing the old booster sustainer setup. Simpler, more reliable, longer range. The D model, first produced in 2006. GPS-aided inertial guidance. Two-way data link for mid-course updates. The launching aircraft can keep updating the missile after firing, the way a navigation app reroutes you in real time. Expanded no escape zone. Roughly a 50% range increase over the C7. Every upgrade made the missile better. Every upgrade made perfect sense. None of them explain why it is still the best one flying in 2026. But none of that answers the real question. Because in 2015, something flew that made every AMRAAM upgrade since 1992 look like running to stay in place. China's PL-15, test fired in 2011, spotted on a J-20 prototype in 2013. Operational with the People's Liberation Army Air Force by around 2017. Dual-pulse solid rocket motor, AESA Seeker. Range estimated at 200 to 300 kilometers. Longer than anything the AMRAAM-D model could reach on its best day. A single-pulse rocket motor is like a car that floors the accelerator once and coasts. A dual-pulse motor is a car that can step on the gas twice, once at launch and once a descent at the terminal phase. That second kick is what lets the PL-15 still have energy when the AMRAAM is running out of it. It is the difference between a sprinter and a sprinter who has thought ahead. The AMRAAM, for most of its life, had not thought ahead. The US Air Force launched the AIM-260 JATM in 2017, the same year the PL-15 entered service. The problem? Every conventional fix, bigger motor, longer airframe, new body, required a new missile, and new missiles take a decade. The US did not have a decade. So the question is not how Raytheon improved the AIM. The question is how Raytheon upgraded a missile when the only thing they could not change was the missile itself. In the middle of all this, Raytheon was quietly working on something nobody was paying attention to. It was not a new missile. It was not even really an upgrade. It was a maintenance problem. The AIM's guidance section used 15 specific circuit cards that had been designed in the early 2000s. The suppliers for those cards were going out of business. If Raytheon did not replace them, the missile would become literally unbuildable. The program was called F3R Form, Fit, Function Refresh. And here is where the story gets interesting. The engineers started the redesign, expecting to just swap the old cards for new ones. Then they realized something. The modern processors they were using as replacements were not just equivalent to the old ones. They were roughly 4 times faster. And that extra computing headroom, computing power the original AIM was never designed to use, could run software the original AIM was never designed to run. A Raytheon executive described it exactly this way. What started as an obsolescence redesign opened up, in his words, an easy pathway to realize exceptional capability within that existing platform. The most successful weapons upgrade in modern Western air combat was, at its origin, a parts catalog problem. The engineers were not trying to rewrite the future of air superiority. They were trying to find a supplier who still made what they needed. History was an accident that happened on the way to a purchase order. They were not trying to make the missile better. They were trying to keep it from becoming unbuildable. The better part was a side effect. What Raytheon ended up with was not a better version of the old AIM. It was a completely different weapon wearing the same shell. And that is the part that changes how the story ends. The AIM-120D3 fielded in March 2024 runs software called SIP-3F. It can receive new flight profiles as code updates. When the F-22 Raptor broke the longest-known air-to-air shot record in late 2024, the Air Force and Raytheon specifically credited the software's optimized flight profile for the result. The missile had not physically changed. The code it was running had. That is what made the record shot possible. The AIM is the first generation of air-to-air weapon that can be meaningfully upgraded without being physically rebuilt. Raytheon can push a firmware update in months. The AIM-260 replacement program has been trying to field a new missile for almost a decade and still is not done. In modern weapons development, that math always wins. The shape on the rail is almost incidental. What matters is the code inside it. And here is what matters for everything that comes next. The AIM's second life was not engineered. It was an accident inside a parts shortage. The 15 circuit cards that needed replacing forced a redesign. And the redesign opened up capabilities nobody had planned for, which means the future of weapons development might not be about designing better weapons from scratch. It might be about designing weapons whose shapes are frozen and whose insides are liquid. The AIM did not beat its replacement by being better. It beat it by being upgradable. The AIM-260 has been in development for almost a decade. In that same decade, the AMRAAM has been rebuilt from the inside 3 times. At some point, you have to ask which one is actually the next generation missile. And in a world where threats evolve in months and replacement programs take decades, that is the only kind of weapon that survives. Here is the question worth sitting with. If the best weapon in the West's inventory is the one nobody ever got around to replacing, what does that say about every replacement program currently in development? Is the future of air combat going to be written by the engineers building new missiles, or by the engineers keeping the old ones flying? Go check out one of our other videos. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until the next one, over and out.